G'day, or how you going, as we say down here in Australia. That's Australian slang, and some people have trouble understanding it, and I think that's understandable. If you're watching this, you may have seen blog 1, where I blogged about playing blues harmonica, and so you want to play. And this tutorial is for a rank beginner, because I see a lot of people asking for this kind of information on the internet, and there's this huge flood of information that goes past what the person should be really focusing on. Is if you're a beginner, there's some really standard things that you need to get on top of before you can go to anything else. And I would suggest those things in this tutorial. This is a blues harmonica without the cover plates, and you can see those reeds are riveted to the plate, and they're top and bottom. If I was to blow one, you may be able to see, maybe I'm not. This reed here, just below my lip, I can feel it. It's vibrating, creating the sound, and it has a plate on top of it like this, and that sound gets caught by that plate with the air going through the cone, and it's projected out the back of the harmonica by being caught and sent that way. So it can go to an acoustic microphone that you might be singing into, or can go to an electrified microphone that you can't. Don't worry about those things if you're a beginner. Don't even think about them. Okay. Your first task is to choose the direction that you want to go. You have to think about what kind of music you're listening to, but the choice of a blues harmonica like this is fairly easy these days, because when I started to play, I could buy a blues harmonica for $2.45. This is what I currently use, which is a Hohner Rocket, and we go into why. There's many reasons why I use it. They're $80 retail. So I've got 13 of them in my jacket here, which is a minimum requirement for the keys that I can sing in, which is a wide range, fortunately. And you can imagine how much that costs to establish yourself with a full set of harmonicas. It actually exceeds the cost of buying a decent acoustic guitar. So no longer is it a cheap pastime. They make some very good cheap harmonicas to initially learn on. Silver Star by Hohner, Swan makes some very good cheaper harmonicas that work well. And the good thing about cheaper harmonicas for a beginner is they have lighter reeds than this harmonica. The reeds are a stick, so therefore when you pass your breath across the reed, it doesn't take as much breath to drive that reed. And this is one of the initial problems that a rank beginner will have, is projecting the right amount of air across the reed to maintain its vibration. And also the duration that you can blow or suck air across the reed will be limited, because that's something you have to learn as well. So let's focus on, you've got reeds that are big and reeds that are small. An F harmonica, which I'll pull out here, it's very high, they're very short reeds, and it's hardly any air to go across the top of that reed to make it work. It's a drastically different technique and airflow to this, which is a G. Right. There's a different airflow required to pass across this reed, and it's much harder. So let's look at those two things. We've got a really short reeded harp at the top here, and a really long reeded harp at the bottom. Right in the middle of those is a D harmonica. And that's not a bad thing, because a lot of bands play an A, because common singers are commonly singing in the key of A, and if you're playing cross-up you would be using a D harmonica. Another thing you don't really focus on at the moment, we need to focus on the fact that you're going to have to operate the reed in the harmonica correctly with the correct amount of air travelling across the top or below it. And that's the focus. If you get a cheaper silver star or something like that in D, you're just about on the reed and it works. Had I have known those, what I'm thinking about is when I started, had I had known those things, I think it would have been a lot easier for me to isolate notes and to control my breathing, because I would have got a result out of the reed much faster. And we're talking about somebody hasn't blown in or sucked in one before. So once you get your D harmonica, which is right there, it's a D, and a D is mid-range. It's not real low and it's not real high. And a reed is reasonably easy to control. How do we go about projecting the sound that we want to do? If you were listening to Bob Dylan, you would probably hear him do stuff like this in a cradle in front of you while he's playing guitar. I do that to blow my harp in. You need to blow a harmonica in for 5 minutes or so. Blowing up and down it too, just where the reed's in a little tiny bit. And sometimes you can use that technique when you're playing blues or rhythm and blues, but it's not a technique that is used often for that kind of thing. It's more of a lead instrument when it comes to playing blues harmonica for blues and rhythm and blues bands. To do that, we need to isolate one note and make it work. That's the biggest hurdle you will initially encounter. So we need to isolate one note. There's lots of different ways that you can do it. There's no set way that is better than another way for yourself, because that's something you have to find out that works for yourself. You may not be able to do the technique that other people use. It doesn't mean that you can't use another one. You've got to make something work for yourself. And there's a couple of initial ones that you do. You would put your tongue over 3 of the holes like this, cuff it, and pull the hole to the right of your tongue in the holes, down the side of your mouth and side of your tongue and down your throat. It's one way of doing it. Okay. You can put your tongue in one hole, cup your lips around it, take your tongue away and try to isolate that one note. Once you can actually do that, put it in your mouth and just play one note, regardless of what technique you're using. The next step is the most difficult one. You've got to move from one note to the next. My lips over many, many decades have got really strong muscles in them that are tuned to so many things from my brain that's going on, that I can do that easily. When you're a beginner, I remember when I was a kid, it was really difficult. I was dragging my mouth from one hole to another and then playing 2, and those things will happen. What I noticed is when somebody asked me that, when people started to come and see me to be tutored to play an harp and give them advice, one thing I noticed was I really had to concentrate on what I was doing to find out what was going on there. And I found out that just for a tiny split second I was releasing the pressure on my lips against the harp cone and moving so quickly I didn't even notice it. So you get this kind of thing. Right, now I'm very, very momentarily, can you imagine how quick I'm releasing the muscle tension to move to one hole and then re-engaging it? But I think that is something that as a beginner you can bear in mind. You might have to do it really, really slowly, but once you've done it, you will see what I mean. You won't drag your lips across to like that. It wasn't until I started to actually tutor harp players a long time ago that were beginners. They used to notice some of these things that happened, and one thing really stands out is once you get past those parts where you can move from one to the other and you start trying to jam along to music and stuff like that, is that the bend is something we're not looking at in this. But I remember distinctly having a student in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, and he was a middle-aged guy. He was an electrician, and he just wanted to play harp for fun. And he came knocking on my door one morning at 2 o'clock and got me up because he had just moved from one note to another and bent it, and he sounded like a harp player. He was so happy about it that he wanted to tell me immediately, and it's sort of like that. I learned a lot from him coming to do that and tell me that, because I remember when I did that myself. But you'll hear me all the time say it takes a long time. It takes longer when there's nobody to give you any advice, and it may take longer if there's too much advice around and you're looking outside of the sphere that you need to concentrate on the moment. If you're a beginner, you need to concentrate playing one note, moving from one note to another. I don't play too much achieved stuff when I'm doing a beginner, because I found that when I listened to really good players when I was a kid and when I was in school, and that it was at times crushing that I'd spent so much time trying to do these things, and although I could bend a note and I could move from one to the other, I was having heaps of trouble in connecting up with exactly how I was to apply that to a playing situation. And that was because I was ignorant from many things, like having to change key when the band changed key. But I used to play along anyway, and I found notes that worked. And what I was doing inadvertently was playing different positions, and I didn't know that. But I concentrated on cross harp, and I very seldom went to different positions because I challenged very, very slick rock guitar players, and there was something that took a long time, and you'll hear me say that all the time. When I started to challenge them, I needed the right equipment. I needed the right technique where I couldn't have I hung up so many valve amps, it was unbelievable that they all lagged. I need something that operated so quickly like a guitar string. Those kind of things are the things I focused on. That you can hear my parrot in the background assisting me. That's just one of them. At least he's not swearing at the moment, which is a small mercy, I can assure you. So if you're a beginner, I hope those things that I've mentioned are helpful. If you can get over those things, then have a look at tutorial 2, because we're going to look at the framework for playing cross harp, what keys you use for different keys that the band's playing, and how you go from one to the other, and the different techniques used to play a big harp, reed and a small one. So if that's not too challenging, don't spend too much money, spend a lot of time. Once you can move from one note to the other, we'll go to the next one and we'll look at bending a note. So good luck with that. April, can you some kind of assistance, and have a go. Catch you soon.